Hi everyone, welcome. I am Dr. Dilsora Fozilova, and in today's class we will be talking about deviance and social control. So, first question is, why do we study deviance in sociology? So this question actually is at the very heart of sociology. We study deviance not just to understand rule breaking, but to understand how societies create, enforce, and negotiate moral boundaries. So when we are seeing norm and deviance, we are telling that there is a boundary in between them. So how do we create, enforce, and maintain these moral boundaries? So we study deviance in sociology for several reasons, some of which to understand how societies define norm, to examine power relations in society and inequality. Also, we study deviance to explore social order and social control. We study deviance to understand how identity and socialization works. We study deviance to analyze social change. Another thing can be that we study deviance to reveal or understand the relationship between morality, law, and culture. Let's go through one by one these few things and see why do we really study deviance in sociology. So number one, we said to understand how societies define norm. Sociologists study deviance because the very act of labeling somebody as deviant reflects deeper moral and cultural rules about what is normal and acceptable in that society and what is deviant. So in different societies, norms and deviance can be different. By asking why certain behaviors are condemned while others are accepted or tolerated, we reveal the social construction of morality. So, by understanding this deviance, we are saying that the boundaries of morality is just before this deviance. We are calling it deviance, so it's not the insider normality. For example, tattooing and same-sex marriages or women wearing pants could be deviant, and it was deviant before, and that their normalization in societies today shows that how norms change over time. Today, we wear more pants than dresses, or we wear, or tattoos are very norm in some parts of the world, or same-sex marriages being accepted, tolerated, or becoming legal for these people to get married. So once it wasn't a norm, and still in some societies, same-sex marriages are not a norm. So the key idea is that we study deviance not only to understand rule breaking, but to understand rule making. So if we don't understand how we're making rules, we cannot understand how we understand rule breaking. So the second one is to examine power and inequality. Who defines deviance? Who defines roles? Who create norms? Whose interests are protected or punished when we are creating these norms or deciding certain acts or deviant? Laws and norms often reflect the values of the dominant group, political, racial, religious, or economic elites. I often talk about Mills's power elite. In power elite, Mills talk about economic, military, and political elite being the center of the power. And these people together, they serve the interests of one another and create norms for society. This approach that studying deviance in sociology to examine power and inequality, central to conflict theory, which we are talking in this class. So deviance is political category that helps maintain inequalities. Another reason why we study deviance in sociology is to explore social order and social control. Deviance helps us see how social order is maintained. Following the Emily Durkheim, deviance is normal, even necessary for society because it clarifies the boundaries or clarifies the collective values, reinforces group solidarity, and also enables moral boundary setting. Durkheim believed that even crime has a function in society. If we really don't know what's deviance and crime, we would not be against them. So we need crime and deviance in society to make the boundaries, moral boundaries, clear. When someone violates norms, society reacts to it through gossip, through law, through punishment, reaffirming what is acceptable. For example, media outrage over cheating athletes in the competitions or corrupt officials helps reaffirm values like fairness and honesty in our societies. In other words, studying deviance shows how moral regulation and societal cohesion work in practice. Often we find ourselves getting, kind of uniting against certain deviances. For example, if there is sexual assault or harming children or anything like that, society all of a sudden unites against them. You can see that through media, like people commenting on that, people showing their anger towards it. Therefore, this knowing what is deviant or crime unites people against it. So also we study deviance to understand identity and socialization. It helps us understand how people form identities in relation to social expectations. Through labeling theory, which is coming from Becker and Lemert, sociologists show how being called deviant can shape the person's self concept and future behavior. That labeling someone, these scholars argue, that can have a self fulfilling prophecy, which you will first label somebody as criminal or lazy or homeless or anything like that, and that can affect their future, and that can make them internalize the label, and then slowly that person accepts that label, therefore acts on it. So label actually creates that person as as however they were labeled. For example, ex-convict or addict or sex worker, that kind of labels can define lives or be resisted through identity movements, like all kinds of labels like that. Also, we study deviance to um, deviance as a driver for transformation. So we know that social norms sometimes very hard to change, and once we are deviant and bringing some other norms to our lives, and probably accepting that by society is hard, but if we keep doing the same thing, slowly that can become a norm. Once um, racism or slavery was a norm. Whoever tried to run away from slavery actually labeled as deviant. So people who are fighting, rebelling their masters or fighting against slavery was viewed as deviant. Now, when we look back, we can see that because they were acting or committing deviant behavior or committing crime from the perspective of the master who enslaved these people, they were committing crime or deviance. And then by keep doing that, they start to let people know that this is not fair. All of us are humans, and there's no way people should be doing what they are doing at that time. Therefore, slowly we united together to bring actual changes in society and civil rights movement. There is a Black Lives Matter movement that the movements against police brutality. All of those are the pieces of that movement that marks that slavery or treating these people unequally is actually a deviant behavior. So, another reason why we study deviance in sociology is to reveal the relationship between morality, law, and culture. Sociologists often use deviance to analyze the intersections of law, religion, and cultural practices. What is criminal in one society may be sacred in another. Studying deviance comparatively, like Islamic, secular, and authoritarian contexts, show how moral orders differ from how they justify control. This connection directly um, directly to my own research in Uzbekistan, where I was analyzing official Islam and unofficial Islam, and I was trying to see why official Islam became norm in society, while unofficial Islam, the sorts of Islam, became a radical or marked as extremist. And many people from the deviant parts of or deviant groups of Islam was being criminalized, thrown in the jail. They faced all kinds of punishments by the government. In summary, why we study deviance in sociology, there are a few things that it shows us how shared norms and moral boundaries are different, the difference between them, mechanisms of social control and resistance. It shows the operation of power and inequality. It shows the shifting definitions of deviance and normalization. So, what is social norm? Social norm is an unwritten, informal rule that defines acceptable and appropriate behavior within specific society or group. That is a guiding that guides actions and interactions in society. These norms dictate everything from how to greet someone to how to dress for an event, and they are learned from young age through socialization, and also they learn it from punishment and rewards for compliance and punishment for non-compliance, that reward for punishment and punishment for non-compliance. One second here. So social norms are the unwritten rules or expectations. They are a set of shared beliefs, attitudes, values, and behaviors within society. We are saying they are unwritten rules. Why unwritten? They're typically informal understandings rather than formal laws and regulations. For example, if you go to Tim Hortons to get coffee, you, without telling you what to do, you will just go and stand at the end of the line and wait for other peoples to get served first. Then when it's your turn, you will go and get your coffee. That is unwritten, but society knows what to do. So the social norms are also behavioral guidances. They prescribe how people ought to behave in various situations, helping individuals and groups navigate daily lives. That when you go to hospital, you know what to do. When you go to the church, you know what to do. So we learn that from young age. If we don't know them, that people will teach us how to act in certain situations. If we deviate from the social norm, people also let us know that we are deviating and bring us back to the norm. For example, if you go to Tim Hortons and don't stand at the end of the line and just go ahead and try to get be served first, then someone says like, do you know where is the end of the line, or everybody's waiting to be served with coffee, so why you're an exception, right? So they will bring you back to the norm or push you get back to the sphere of norms. And norms are very context specific. They vary across different cultures, across different communities, across different historical times. For example, what is considered appropriate dress code in one place, informal event, that is maybe not a norm in another place. So that is different for every culture. For example, I think East Indian celebration is going on right now. Yesterday, I was walking in the Walmart and I saw a bunch of people wearing saris and their traditional clothes. You don't usually see them, but because it is that celebration and that's where they wear all of their clothes, they were wearing them the other places as well. And everybody knows that this is kind of time and it's the celebration going on, right? By the way, it's beautiful if any of you from that culture. And also, norms are learned and shared. We learn norms through internalization, that everything from the young age we learn from home is the internalization process. We learn from our parents, which are the primary agents of socialization. They will teach us how to hold the spoon, how to cook, how to prepare, get ready for bed, and what time need to get to bed, and what's okay to watch on TV, what's not okay to watch on TV, or how to say hi or hello. There's all kinds of values in our families. We internalize them, and over time, we also act on them, and then therefore we start externalize them as well. When we externalize our values, our traditions, our skills, then other people can internalize them. So this is the process of socialization. Norms also enforce through social pressure. As I told you, if you don't follow social norms, society will let you know that you're not following them. Therefore, they sanction you. Adherence is motivated by the desire for social acceptance and the fear of social sanctions or disapprovals. It can be exclusion, ridiculing somebody, or throwing banana, whatever it can be. That is kind of society is showing you're deviating from those norms. Conversely, following a norm can lead to social acceptance and reward. For example, if the societal goal is being religious or going to university, and when you go to university or attend your religious events, your parents can be very proud of you, and even they can give you gifts, or they can talk about you or doing certain things, making you feel that. So therefore, having those pressures or rewards make you stay in the realm of social norms. There are certain social norms, for example, folkways, that these are minor customs like holding the door open for a stranger, or not talking to the phone loudly in a quiet restaurant. Those are very specific minor customs about social norms, or we sometimes call them high culture. High culture is mostly regarded as that people go and enjoy opera, for example, or the elite like stuff. That's a high culture. However, low culture is the ones we mainstream society exercises. That is societal norm. Some social norms can be okay in one place and not okay in the other place. For example, wearing towel over your head after shower is fine at home, and mostly we do that, to dry our hair, or wearing like a house coat. And then wearing that to the store is deviating from the norms. You don't see people wearing, towel on their head or wearing like a house coat in the grocery store. Therefore, people start to, point out or ridicule you, or such thing as that they will bring people back to norm. Social norms help to regulate social behavior and promote social cohesion, that we know what's the norm. When we deviate from them, people will let us know. They provide sense of order and predictability. For example, when we go to Tim Hortons, as we mentioned, we can predict that next person will come and stand behind us, not in front of us. In that sense, we kind of know the order. It's just easier for us navigate our ways in society because we know social norms. If there was no social norm, then anybody would do anything, and then that would be a big disorder in society. Um, Social norms also serve as a means of control, as I mentioned earlier. Because we have norms, now we know what is deviating from them, therefore we control them. That is a form of control. So some social norms can be harmful, as I mentioned again. The once in our society, slavery was a norm, and then running away from slavery or fighting against it was a deviation. So in some societies, can be very problematic. For example, child brides, you can see in this picture, in certain cultures, child brides are normal, but in our understanding, in the Western countries, the child brides or violation of the regulations of the government, which says exactly what age men and women should be to get married. Social norms can be problematic when they reinforce inequalities or injustices within society. For example, gender stereotypes or racial stereotypes. Social norms can perpetuate harmful or negative behavior, can be aggressive or violent behavior. For example, in 1980s, there was a advertising was very violent. It said, slap the B word, and that was a husband slapping on the face of his wife. And this was certain sort of advertising that embraced at the time. However, when we look at it, we critically analyze that and say that it promoted aggressiveness and violent behavior. It was about like a traditional norms, I guess. But in today's world, we cannot take them as they are violent behavior. Social norms can discourage individual freedom, individuals from speaking out or challenging the status quo. So, for example, certain sexual assault, because the person who is telling about that or speaking out can be punished in society, or their reputation will be diminished. That kind of stuff stops them from speaking out. Sometimes they don't get justice for the behavior of those men, therefore, they do not complain or speak out about the sexual abuse. Therefore, those kind of norms discourage individuals from talking about the wrongdoings in society. So what's deviance? Deviance is in everyday life, and sociological understanding is of deviance is different. Oh, not my intention. So deviance is any behavior that violates social norms, which are the accepted rules in society, as we mentioned already, or expectations in a particular culture. These violations can be minor, like not speaking in public, or serious, like murder, or can include actions like the actions or clothing or physical characteristics. Whether something is considered deviant depends on the context, culture, and the social group. Key aspects of deviance, we can say that it is a different nature of deviance across time, place, and culture. It is violation of norms, is fundamentally about breaking the rules, whether those rules are formal, like laws and regulations, or informal, like folkways or mores. It is context dependent. What is considered deviant changes over time. And as we said, across time, place, and culture, it includes more than just negative behavior. Sometimes it doesn't have to be negative. While deviance often has a negative connotation, it can also be positive actions like heroic act. It's also deviant. Um, it can be subject to social reactions. Sometimes violating a social norm can lead to a range of social reactions, from informal disapproval to a formal punishment. Or it can be also labeled. Individuals or groups can be labeled deviant, which can lead to social stigma. For example, homeless people, we mark them as deviant, and then that comes with bunch of stigmas that they are lazy, they are like alcoholic, they are drug dealers, and all of those stuff, or they don't want to organize their lives, therefore they are deviant. um, as social norms or the construction, the deviance is also social construction. we talk about how we construct norms as the first societies in the world. When they start to live together, they were creating norms to make the society that, doing things in society easier. And those become more and more as people come and go. Social norms thickened and objectified and institutionalized. They became solid, right? It's hard to change in our time. While they were organizing norms in society, they were also creating the moral boundary between social norm and deviance. Therefore, norms actually don't exist without deviance. If there is no deviance, why would we have any social norm? If there is no social norm, how can we have anything deviating from something? So social norm is a starting point, and then we will look at actions or behaviors as deviating from that point one or point zero. One of the Baker's publishing is here. Deviance is not the act itself, but the reaction to the act. So when we act in certain way, that's not the deviance if nobody reacts to it. If somebody reacts to it, then we know we are deviating from the social norm. Who's deviant? When we label people, the labeling theory says we label people with different things and often negative things, and sometimes people internalize that label. The labels are sometimes they define deviant. So, for example, when we label somebody as thief, or when we label somebody as alcoholic, we are saying that they are deviating from the social norm, which is negative. That we can say that they are deviating by calling them their name. And often, when people internalize these labels, they can act upon it, and therefore that can be self-fulfilling prophecy. So the role of moral entrepreneurs and media. Who are moral entrepreneurs? They can be your parents, it can be media, it can be religion, it can be government, it can be law. Those ones just show us what is a social norm, whether we are distancing from them. So they are very important parts of deviance and understanding deviance. So there's a question for you to think. If we were in class, we would talk about what was considered deviant 50 years ago that isn't today. What was deviant 50 years ago? And we do not look at that thing as deviant anymore. What might be deviant now, but not in the future. So I'll leave you with this question, and I will see you in the next video.